Hey everyone, Sky here to discuss X-Men, starring Patrick Stewart, Hugh Jackman, Ian McKellen, Famke Janssen, James Marsden, Halle Berry, Anna Paquin, Tyler Mane, Ray Park, Rebecca Romijn, I'm just going to say that for now, and Bruce Davison, and directed by Bryan Singer. Welcome back, and I still haven't reviewed that other movie that you did before this one, which was The Usual Suspects. I might get there one day, but we'll see. But I remember seeing this movie back in theaters when it was out in 2000. And what did I think of it then versus now? Well, let's get into it. The movie begins in Poland, 1944, with a young Magneto separated from his parents, and I always found this scene very depressing. And we're going to see it again in another X-Men movie. I won't spoil it, but wait for it and we'll see it again. Because of the way he gets separated from his parents and never sees them again, and leaving and learning he has powers to move metal objects, but that scene was absolutely depressing. Next scene, we meet Rogue, aka Marie, played by Anna Paquin, who I've never watched her in this show. I haven't even seen her in years, but her powers are like when you touch her, your powers fade down to a short amount of time and kills others. And I do like the fact that she has an arc here, because this whole movie is going to be about her, it feels like. Jean Grey, played by Famke Janssen, gives a presentation of mutation until Senator Robert Kelly, played by Bruce Davison, rudely interrupts and tells people to be scared of mutants. Professor Charles Xavier, aka Professor X, played by Patrick Stewart from Star Trek The Next Generation, who I'll be seeing twice. Oh, no, that's not true. Have a conversation with an older Eric Lensher, aka Magneto, played by Ian McKellen. He's the one I'll be seeing twice starting next week, with not only X-Men 2, but with these two trilogies. And I'll talk about why I'm doing those next week. But their conversation is about the future of the mutants and mankind, and Professor X believes they can live in peace. Meanwhile, Magneto believes that mutants are the future. And so far, I'm liking these characters and their debates and what they're all about. In Canada, Rogue goes to a town called Laughlin City, and she meets Logan, aka Wolverine, played by Hugh Jackman, as he fights a muscle man and he's disrespected. Then we see him again in the bar where the muscle man picks a fight with him. And Hugh Jackman, here's an actor who, after this, I've seen in other movies, and if he didn't do this role, I would never know him as an actor. He's that good in here. But this is the role that he will be remembered for forever, as Wolverine. And he's like the best character in this entire franchise until we get to maybe Dark Phoenix. We'll see. But Logan reluctantly gives Marie a ride and becomes good friends until they encounter Sabretooth, played by Tyler Mane, who is better off in Rob Zombie's Michael Myers version of than he is in here. Because let me tell you guys something, he really can't freaking act. And Sabretooth attacks Wolverine, but both he and Rogue are saved by Aurora Monroe, aka Storm, with a bad accent, and I will talk about that later, played by Halle Berry, and who will improve later in sequels. And Scott Summers, aka Cyclops, played by James Marsden, who I do like as an actor, and we will be seeing him again in Quentin Tarantino's new movie. And take them back to Xavier's school for gifted youngsters and for mutants. And Wolverine wakes up to find Jean seeing what he is, and meets Professor X and his team called the X-Men. And I'm really liking these characters, except for Sabretooth. And another character I'll talk about a little later, and Storm, I should say. Storm has a really bad accent. Senator Kelly gets abducted by Magneto's henchman, Mystique, played by Rebecca Romijn, Stamos at the time, I like her as a character, and found her incredibly attractive, and Toad, who I reviewed before in this Star Wars movie. But here's another actor like Tyler Mane who just can't freaking act. And let Magneto turn him into a mutant for the negative he talks about them to take Senator Kelly too. And that is an odd scene. I found this movie to be quite odd when I first saw this in theaters in 2000. But now as an adult, I find it very interesting in a very strange way. Logan dreams of his past on how he was created, and Marie wakes him up, and he's having the nightmares, and he's accidentally claw stabs Rogue through the chest and calls for help, as she absorbs his powers. And I like the scenes with Marie and Logan. I think they act well together. Senator Kelly escapes Magneto was a pretty funny but groaner scene, because Magneto traps Sabretooth in the prison scene, and Roars was just so bad. As Senator Kelly arrives at the beach, we get a Stan Lee cameo at the hot dog stand. That was brilliant for Stan to show up at that point, not talking and all that, but just to look like this. Logan realizes that Marie is gone, and Professor X shows him Cerebro and sees her at the train station. And Logan goes to Professor X, sends Storm and Cyclops to the train station, and Logan finds Marie before Storm and Cyclops ever do. Storm and Cyclops get encountered by Sabretooth and Toad, while Mystique sets something poisonous in Cerebro. Meanwhile, Logan meets Magneto for the first time. Logan gets his ass handed to him by the Magneto. I like the brief fight, but Charles gets inside Sabretooth and Toad's minds. And by Charles, I'm talking about Professor X. And to tell him to not shoot the cops was pretty preposterous. Senator Kelly comes in the main mansion, and Charles reads his mind to see what Magneto did to him. And as they leave him alone, Storm comes in to talk to him until he melts, which did freak me out. When I first saw this in a very young age, then this scene is where I noticed Halle Berry's accent sounding pretty damn terrible in that scene. And it's freaky. I mean, when he turns into water, it's freaky. And I bet you Bryan Singer said by making the next movie, just lose the accent, Halle, honestly. Jean finds out Magneto is going to the Statue of Liberty in Liberty Island in New York, and to absorb the power and kill Rogue and the X-Men to go there to fight Magneto and his Brotherhood of Evil. And as they enter, Logan stabs the metal detector and flips off Cyclops, which was funny in a misplaced way. Logan fights Mystique that looks like Logan at first until she switches back to herself. They're on their own, which I love that fight. Toad spits some goo at Jean and begins to fight Storm and knocks her out until she rises and says a terrible one-liner about what happens to a toad when it's struck by lightning. And Cyclops releases Jean from the goo. It was too convenient, and so does Logan, knowing Mystique is from Storm, because she at one point becomes Storm, and Logan stabs her as she becomes Mystique. But I thought it was funny when Logan says to Cyclops, "You're a dick." That made me laugh. Magneto has the X-Men captured, and when he flies up to Rogue and the Machine, the CGI looked bad. Logan releases himself, knowing he can survive was interesting, but tacky. Logan and Sabretooth fight when Logan uses his claws to save his ass on the Statue of Liberty crown. That also looked pretty bad. Logan defeats Sabretooth. How? He gets Cyclops' glasses, and he blasts him out of the building and falls to death. Meanwhile, Logan releases Rogue with Cyclops having a shot at Magneto, and Cyclops shoots him, and Logan purposely lets Rogue transfer his powers. Was heartbreaking, but pretty heroic. Magneto is arrested playing chess with Professor X. Meanwhile, Logan goes to a mountain to find answers to his origin. And the X-Men find out Mystique is alive pretending to be Senator Kelly. But how do I feel about this ending? Satisfying at best. Now it's time for the rating. I'll give this movie a 7.1 out of 10. This has problems, sure, and I talked about them. But I do like this movie for how strange it can be. It's interesting how we know these characters better than last week's movie, Generation X, which please don't make me do that. At best, this movie is satisfying and is better than Generation X. So I would like to thank you guys for joining me, and next week I will be back with X-Men 2, or as they like to call it, X2, X-Men United. And until next time,